Weeds can have major impacts on properties, reducing agricultural production and affecting the local native biodiversity of landscapes. Preventing weeds from establishing and spreading on properties by using good practice measures can help reduce and avoid costly weed control. Matt Chesworth is Property Manager of Westwood Pastoral, a 1,300-hectare farming enterprise near Dungog. Weed management is taken seriously on the property, with several practices in place to minimise the spread of weeds.
The weed spread is a very important part of the whole management plan of a property because it can become an expensive exercise if they aren't controlled, and simple processes and simple measures put in place can, in the long term, have a big effect on not only the weed spread on the property, but financially they can have a big impact.
One of those simple measures put in place at Westwood is the installation of signs at the property entrance. Contractors can be responsible for introducing or spreading weeds on a property. They should have a policy in place to prevent this. If not, they must be willing to follow procedures set out by the landholder.
All contractors report to either me as a manager or the owner when they initially come to the property. We then go through a simple procedure that tells them where they can go, what they can do, who they report to, their designated roads and designated areas that they perform their work in. For instance, we don't want them in the infested areas with the weeds.
One of the most important things for contractors to adhere to at Westwood is to stay on the designated roads that they have been assigned to travel on.
So if it is unavoidable for a contractor to stay away from an infected area, we put a more thorough cleaning process into place. So for instance, after they've travelled through that area, they'll come back to the wash bay, re-wash their vehicle before they go to a non-infested area.
The wash bay is a dedicated, well-equipped area for washing down and cleaning vehicles and farm machinery. The area is set up at the entrance to Westwood.
It's a simple project. It cost us probably around $2,000. We bought a power supplied pressure cleaner and got a water supply from an on-farm pressure pump system that is set up at the river. And we just made sure there was a firm road base there for any vehicle to park on when they wash. So for a minimal cost, we've set up an area there where we can clean any vehicle that comes on site to minimise that weed spread.
The wash bay also has a sign installed showing where to focus cleaning efforts on particular vehicles to ensure that weed seed is removed.
So we're wanting to clean out underneath our feet, underneath our floor mats for any weeds or seeds that may have come off our boots. We focus on under the mud guards, under the undercarriage of the vehicles, around the bull bar, that sort of area, where the seed actually sits and where the seed's actually going to be. We got a barrier around the outside of the wash bay, which basically contains any weeds within that area, and then they can be controlled from just that small area.
When washing facilities are not available, brushing a vehicle can be an effective way to remove weed seeds. It's not just vehicles that transport weeds onto or around a property. Livestock must be considered also.
So when new cattle are purchased and come to Westwood, we have a paddock at our yards that is basically a quarantine paddock. And depending on how much of the history of the cattle we know, they can spend anywhere between 7 and 21 days in that paddock to pass any weed, seed or any pests or diseases out of them before they are put out into the open paddock. So when we're moving livestock around Westwood, we try to minimise moving through the areas where we know there are infected areas with weeds that we don't want spread around the property. We tend to rotate our cattle in a way that the cattle don't actually graze paddocks when the seed is at its ripest or the plant is in its seed phase.
Weed seeds can be carried on the clothing of people and on the coats of working dogs.
So you probably want to just be a little bit vigilant and give yourself a brush off before you hop in or out of the vehicle to make sure that you don't spread a weed from one area to another. Something as simple as your working dogs, they're in the grass, they're in the paddocks all the time. Might be as simple as just give them a brush off after a job's been done to make sure that they're not carrying weeds on or off the property.
Fodder can be a potential transporter of weeds, so it is important to source feed from a reputable supplier. The procedures put in place at Westwood Pastoral are in line with those recommended by the Hunter Regional Weeds Committee, a body working towards reducing weed spread via better hygiene practices across the Hunter region. The Hunter Regional Weeds Committee has developed the Hunter Regional Strategic Weed Management Plan, which will be implemented throughout the community. Everyone who owns or manages land in New South Wales has a general biosecurity duty, which is a shared responsibility to do what is reasonable for them to prevent, eliminate or minimise biosecurity risks, including weeds. For more information, visit these websites.